next speaker, the last one but not the least, Dr. Andreas Löcken, and he's a postdoctoral researcher in HCI group at THI and the Charisma Institute of Automated Driving. His current research focuses on human-computer interfaces, especially the interaction between humans and automated vehicles, including the perspective of passengers and vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians. So here's his topic, ambient light displays for automated driving. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was a long intro. I also thought about talking about EHMIs, but I saw that some very good researchers already covered that, and I really enjoyed the presentations on that and also the ones in this session so far. I came later because of technical difficulties, so I can't say much about the first session. So actually this, what Faye just told us fits quite nicely to my talk or to what I did, because in my dissertation, I worked together with Faye a couple of times, and instead of using icons that became transparent, we used ambient light, and this is what you see here in the background. And I want to motivate just, or to give you hopefully some inspiration about using ambient light to give some information to your drivers or to the passengers. I think everyone who's a bit interested in ambient light probably saw something like this. This is now the newest Mercedes concept. So I think all the new premium cars now have some kind of ambient light. So I'm not proposing you should add more ambient light to your car. I'm proposing to actually use it for something meaningful. So my research, this is a selection of some works that I did, and you see usually I mock up some ambient light and put it in the car and then try to evaluate something. But the question is, what am I actually talking about? So let's step back and go for ambient displays in general. So we see, for example, the vibrotactile display on the left. This is like a tactile belt that's around you. We have a hot coffee mug or maybe a teacup. So smell interaction can be a thing which is more ambient. It's the periphery of your attention. And actually what got me started into this direction is ambient light around a tablet PC in this case, to give someone more attention that he has to pick up the display because there's some information going on, and then the display itself shows information why the person is interacting with the display. So it can address all kinds of senses, and the reason is always it should be in the periphery of your attention and should not focus too much. We had a very nice workshop on that a couple of years ago, how to put that into the vehicle. And there were some discussions back and forth, and we couldn't decide for just a single definition, of course, but for two definitions. And you can, of course, use them or come up with your own one. So it's always about, we have a modality of some kind of output, and it's important that it does not require immediate action. And usually the user can't change the information, or it cannot be manipulated, which doesn't mean you can interact light up or something. In parallel, we also had a lot of discussions on ambient light displays in general. And as I said, they are positioned in the periphery of a person's attention, and they use information or convey information in a non-distracting way. And now the most of the time is important part, because sometimes you really want to get someone's attention. For example, in the takeover request we discussed earlier. So what has this to do with my work? Most of my works were in manual-driven cars, as you can see here. Usually it's level 2, or, well, I didn't use many automated functions, so you could even say level 1 maybe. And it supports the driver in maintaining a situational awareness or making the driver ready to do something. So I would say it's also applicable for level 3 driving when talking about takeover requests. What kind of parameters do we have? So from all my works, this is the summary more or less. We have colors, of course, which is already used in modern vehicles. The brightness, of course, but the problem with brightness is that you have to adapt it to the light that is coming from the outside of the vehicle into the vehicle maybe. You can play around with saturation, with the location of the light. the size of the light. Sometimes you see the light, some small like lights moving around the vehicle to communicate something. Think of KIT from the 80s maybe. You can use the structure, which may be a strange term, but like have some lights here and some different kinds there. That would be something that I would call structure. You can change the waveform. So if you have changes in any of these parameters, you can of course make that very quickly, or you can have a nice sine curve, for example. And you can change the speed. If you have some repeating pattern, you can make it faster to grab more the attention of the display. If you have, for example, a red pulsing, then if it's very slow, it's not a big deal and it won't grab the attention too much, but it's very quick, then people will probably drop their stuff and focus on why something is blinking in red. So going to automated driving, this was, I think, my first attempt to do support for automated vehicles. This is now, you can see there's no driver involved, so it's probably level 4 or 5. And the idea is that the passenger would now see what the car's about to do, so it would communicate its intention. We can see it just lights up in orange on the right when it's going to cross to change lanes, or it's going up in red to symbolize it secure in the vehicle and know what's going on. We did a similar idea in a recent study 2 years. Them gave some input. Video-based simulation, and showed the drivers or the passengers in that case how it would feel if the interior light or if the light band in front of the car, you can see it on the bottom, would light up to show, okay, there's now a pedestrian crossing, or if the sensors don't pick up anything important, they are just turned off. On the second case, we can see that the same situation now, it was actually a longer video, that the car also shows a trajectory. In this situation, we learned that the participants preferred it very much to get this information, even though the car was perfectly driving on its own. But they just wanted to know what's going on, and they preferred the trajectory together with the, let's say, warning or the obstacle visualization in red to only the warning about the obstacle. And what we didn't expect was that they didn't like the red color, because they didn't have any steering wheel or anything to do anything about it. So there was a warning, and they were just sitting there, okay, I will just crash into the pedestrian now, I guess. So I think we should, if you want to build on this, or in our next iteration, we should change that color at least, or maybe the timing. Yeah, some more inspiration. So what we do, you saw now the driving simulator situation. You saw a video-based simulation. This is now model-sized displays, which helps a lot in workshop settings. You can just, or when you go to a participant, you can just pick up your Barbie car with the lights and show it to other people, and quickly program something on in this case an Arduino, and just in the discussion always update the light pattern and come very quickly to a nice idea. This car actually had a sensor also, so when you move it towards a hand or some other obstacle, you can adapt the display to that, so you can very quickly show off your light patterns. And we saw that it works much better than just showing videos or simulations in our workshops. Another idea that some students have, which is actually kind of unpublished, so it's in my dissertation, you can look it up online, but it's not in some conferences, is just having very quickly put light into the volunteers' cars, and then have basically in situ interviews on how would it look like if you put it here or put it there, just to try it out and have different kinds of discussions, different kinds of vehicles, which helps a lot when you only have one vehicle in your lab to test things. Of course, this is very old. This is what VR used to look like when I started with this. This was an idea to use ambient light for frustration management. So the driver would just sit there, and the traffic won't get any faster, and so the light would just start to become green or blue to change the mood. And there were some different elements in that are listed in that paper below. So this now goes into the direction of changing moods, which is what automotive industry has been doing for a while now. So you can put up the red color if you want to feel more sportive maybe, or you can put up the blue color if you want to relax. So this is nothing where I go into, but also something maybe to improve on. And as a final question maybe, so what if we put all of this now into shuttle buses or into public transportation? We had, I'm just back from a seminar. We just discussed a lot about public transportation and what to do when we get rid of, well, personally owned vehicles, only have public vehicles. And maybe there's some misbehavior in the shuttle bus, but there's no driver. So maybe you just put people into the spotlight if they behave not well or something. Or maybe you want to light up some lower areas when people fear that there's some pocket picking going on and things like that. So this was my inspiration. I was much faster than expected, so maybe we can have a little more, I can go into more details for some things that you found interesting. I didn't meant to show this, but yeah. Why should you listen to me? I know stuff, I guess. And yeah, I'm from Charisma, from Technische Hochschule Ingolstadt, as you said, and funded through the BMBF, which is now called BMVI, which is now called BMDV, I think, the Safe Now project. Thank you very much.
Yes, so any questions from both on-site or online?
I've got a question about
You go first.
Yeah, go first. I've got a question about the meaning of ambient lines, because when we design the EHMI, we always need to if my focus is not about the very specific content of the EHMI, but of the style, and if the EHMI can give an extra message or information to the participants. I think the ambient light have the similar function, that we give you a contract that there's something happened, so I tell you this information. But I mean, do you need to give a prior instruction to the participants? What does the ambient light exactly mean before you do the main test? Or it's intuitive enough to the participants that they can get the information directly what the ambient light means, especially in the public bus, the transportation.
Yeah, public bus. So I'm not. So the EHMI is outside the vehicle, but I'm happy to answer that question because I also looked into EHMIs. So when it's when there's, for example, a light point that goes around the vehicle, and after some playing around, like after you saw the car passing by a couple of times, maybe then you know, okay, the light point shows something towards me, and you learn it very quickly, I would say. And there are even clearer things, like when the light turns. We had one scenario or one experiment that's not published yet, where we used a light band where just the whole car would turn red, for example, or would just turn green. And because we were thinking, okay, what's the right metaphor? Is it the traffic? Because the traffic light would turn green and it would be clear that you can pass. But when the car turns green, does it mean that the car is going to drive because it's his traffic light that turns green, basically? Or does it mean that it's the pedestrians' turn to cross the path because the car turns green? And in that situation, people would wait would take it for a second information, like the car was slowing down and turning green. That would mean I can cross because the car's turning down and the color changes from red to green. But it worked in both directions. So I would say whatever color you pick, it should be consistent. and the color change is the information. So it turns from green to red, and the car stopped, and you could observe it a couple of times, makes it clear that, okay, the car means I'm stopping now when it's green or something. But it can be quite confusing. Yeah, maybe there are some better color patterns that also highlight in which direction, when not the whole car lights up, but in which direction the information is going. Yeah, maybe there are many EHMI experts here. Maybe someone else wants to add something to that. Regarding the public transport and the interior of the shuttle bus, we played around, for example, with a what's it called? A flashlight, and looked what does feel natural. So to blind someone in the face was misbehaving, or just spotlighting like garbage that was lying on the floor. And yeah, that was just like some small scale exploration. I can only tell that it felt natural, but we didn't do any valid study, I would say, on that. But this is some direction that could work. Yeah, now I've been going on for a while. Any other question or something to elaborate on?
Yeah, I totally agree with the. There's I mean, because for the passengers on the public bus or on the shuttle bus, or the maybe in the future there's sharing cars that I'm just a passenger sit in the car and it's an autonomous vehicle, and I have to learn a lot of things about the EHMI things, about the display, that after I know what the means of the color and the pulsing thing, and I know what the vehicle exactly tell me, and it's kind of also challenge maybe for the elders or for the children. So I'm curious about this kind of thing. But you give me a lot of information. Yeah, I think I think I will think of more about this aspect. Thank you so much.
Yes. So I also see Hailong have a question.
I have a question. Thanks for your presentation, and your work is pretty good, it looks like. But my question is, did you think the light is too strong to the pedestrian, to the passengers? Because it's looks like the club, you know. Just so the light personally, I think the light is too strong for me if I'm a passenger. Maybe those strong light maybe give the passenger some negative effects. For example, make the passenger to get some motion sickness or something. So how do you think about that?
So the question was if the light that is in the car was too bright, right? Not the light that's coming in or something. Okay. Well, so for example, these pictures were taken with very dark settings so that you couldn't see the color, because it's hard to take a picture of lights sometimes. Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning, and I was talking about the parameters, that you should use the brightness with caution, because it's probably better to adapt the overall brightness to the ambient brightness in the car, the ambient brightness level. And I think that might more or less solve it, but I don't have much like real world driving around data, or driving through an alley maybe where the light constantly changes. Those are some issues probably still, yeah. What I also observed, so when I go into a commercial vehicle and they have this infotainment system lighting up in blue during nighttime, I'm blinded all the time. So I think the industry can improve there very much with just a simple sensor and checking how bright the interior is at the moment. Yeah, but I didn't get the question with the motion sickness. So what was if it would induce motion sickness, or?
Oh, because for the motion sickness, if the passenger to get a very strong light from the view system, it maybe get some uncomfortable feeling. For example, the motion sickness. during using the AV or something.
Okay. I didn't observe lights. I also was lucky that I think none of my participants so far got motion sick in a driving simulator, but I had a couple of times when they were driving with VR. One of the things that we actually wanted to look at, and I think the research group in TU Eindhoven looked into it a little bit, the movement of the ambient light, maybe in the floor, some moving pattern to help people who are not focusing outside of the car because they're reading a book or writing emails or whatever, to help them with motion sickness. And so, yeah, I think it's worth investigating, but I don't have much input on that. Show up as a problem.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay, then I think I have a question. Yes. Yeah, actually, it's not a question. It's a little bit thinking about this because I noticed that one of your prototypes, and I guess it reflects the motion of the vehicle, the dynamics of the vehicle when when it drives smoothly and the light is green, and when it deceleration, or it turns to stop, to brake, and it turns red. But I would like to say that a red light, I guess mostly means alert to human drivers. But you know, the cars in the video, they just stop or accelerate. It decelerates safely. So we will think it's a little bit strange, but if you just want to like give a cue to the passenger, like, okay, what my car is doing, what is it going to decelerate or something, will you think maybe we need to change to a maybe mild color, not red, maybe shallow purple or pink or something else, because I guess maybe the users don't want to be really alert about, oh, you are decelerate, but I'm safe. I'm sitting here very safely. So
Yep.
have you like some consideration about this?
Yeah, I would agree that green and red are not the best colors in automated driving when you can't do anything as a passenger. Yeah, because it's a call for action, basically. Or, well, green maybe not, but at least red is a call for action. So the idea behind the design, I think we are referencing like this situation, was that this you only decelerate when you expect that there's some obstacle coming. And so that was the idea behind using red as like kind of a warning for the obstacle. But yeah, we also saw that in the situations in the experiments then, that people would say, well, maybe red was not the best color. There's a whole nother problem to the color using in automated vehicles, or at least when it is level 3, for example, which would be the mode confusion. So usually nowadays you often see in the advertisements that the color would be blue if the car is driving automatically, and off or some other color when it's not driving automatically anymore. So I think going forward, I would probably start with the color of blue as like the base color maybe, or in the middle you see like this purple color, which is also not associated with any call for action, and then only use the other parameters like change the size of the area that lights up, or where it actually lights up and things like that, instead of just lighting up the whole side or the whole front or something like that. So I think from that perspective, or considering that, it would make more sense to not use color for all the information, but actually go for the other parameters. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.